7 signs. You're healing deeper than you realize, even when it feels like you're breaking. If life has recently felt overwhelming, raw, or deeply disconnected, you might assume it's a sign you're falling behind. But what if it's the exact opposite? What if that emotional turmoil isn't a breakdown, but a profound breakthrough? True healing is rarely the gentle, peaceful journey we imagine. More often it feels like a complete dismantling before the pieces can be put back together in a stronger way. In this video, we are going to uncover 7 counterintuitive emotional signs that serve as proof of your healing, especially when it feels like anything but. And if this message speaks to the journey you're on, I've created an inner healing guide for you in the pinned comment. Make sure you subscribe for more weekly wisdom grounded in the profound psychology of Carl Jung and the real, unfiltered process of emotional growth. The philosophy of healing. Our culture sells a very clean, linear picture of healing. We imagine it as a steady climb towards a sunlit peak, where pain gracefully recedes and wisdom dawns. But the genuine alchemy of the soul, the kind Carl Jung dedicated his life to understanding, is rarely so tidy. It is visceral, it is disorienting. It can make you doubt every ounce of progress you thought you'd made. What if I told you that the days you feel profoundly alone, intensely irritable or utterly lost are not a regression? What if they are evidence that your inner architecture is undergoing a necessary renovation? You see, healing isn't just about releasing old pain. It is about actively grieving the person you had to be to survive. It's about mourning the unlived parts of your childhood, the needs that went unanswered, and the silent wounds you carried like armor for years, unaware of their weight. Carl Jung famously taught that to become whole, we must integrate our shadow, the parts of ourselves we've disowned. And that integration often requires us to sit in the fire of our discomfort, not run from it. It demands we recognize that certain feelings, however agonizing, are signs that we are finally giving our own soul a voice, finally metabolizing experiences we never had the safety to process before. This is not a step backward. This is the courageous, messy work of moving forward. It's evolution disguised as chaos. In this video, we will explore 7 emotional states that might feel like you're falling apart, but are in fact undeniable signs you are waking up, healing, and finally stepping into the most authentic version of yourself. Why uncomfortable feelings are a sign of progress. Let's begin with the core principle. Why are some of the most uncomfortable feelings actually signposts of emotional healing, according to Carl Jung? Jung once stated, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This single idea is the foundation of real transformation. It begins the moment you stop treating your pain as an enemy and start approaching it as a messenger. For too long, we've been conditioned to equate healing with perpetual positivity, lightness, and calm. But this perspective is not just incomplete, it's damaging. It fosters the belief that if you're still experiencing sadness, anger, or confusion, you must be failing at healing. The truth is, these very emotions are often the engine of deep inner change. According to Jung, every one of us has a shadow self, a psychological container for all the aspects of our personality that were rejected, repressed, or shamed into hiding. This is where we store our unprocessed pain, our righteous anger, our deep grief, our fears. Much of it is rooted in our earliest years, where our wounded inner child resides. When you commit to a true healing path, these buried parts begin to stir. But they don't emerge politely. They come to the surface with the force of a tidal wave, crying, screaming, and demanding to be seen. Emotionally, this can feel like a storm. You might find yourself snapping with irritation for no logical reason, feeling a bone-deep exhaustion even after a full night's sleep, or being ambushed by memories you thought were long forgotten. This is not a malfunction. This is the sound of your soul reconnecting with its own truth. This process is what Jungians call integration. To integrate is to acknowledge, welcome, and make conscious space for every part of you that you were taught to ignore. And like any profound emotional reunion, it's not a straight, predictable path. Many of Jung's patients reported experiencing bizarre dreams, a sense of being lost in their own lives, or a heightened sensitivity to the world around them during their analysis. Jung didn't see these as problems to be fixed. He saw them as proof that the unconscious was finally being heard. It's as if When you finally crack open the door to your inner world, a voice from within whispers, "Ah, you see me now. I can finally come out." And when that energy emerges, it can look like crying over a commercial. It can mean walking away from relationships you once saw as your lifeline. It can mean feeling a volcanic anger about injustices you once quietly tolerated. Society trains us to pathologize these feelings, but Jung's wisdom urges the opposite. Listen to them, honor them, understand their origins, and in doing so, allow them to transform you. Another vital idea is that emotional pain during healing is not a sign of failure, but a sign of depth. Healing doesn't magically erase your past, it fundamentally reshapes your relationship with it. And that process requires confrontation, re-evaluation, and an ocean of self-compassion. So if you are in a season where everything feels more potent, if old scars are aching again, if you feel an urgent need to withdraw, or if your world just seems heavier, know this. You are likely in the midst of one of the most significant inner reorganizations of your life. And this process, though often invisible to others, is sacred. You may be, at this very moment, healing generational trauma, dismantling inherited patterns, and releasing narratives that were never yours to carry, all without fully realizing it. The confusion, the emotional fatigue, the hypersensitivity, these are symptoms of a soul undergoing a deep purification. This is why Jung invites us to do something radical. Instead of trying to fix or get rid of these emotions, he encourages us to enter into a dialogue with them, to approach them with curiosity and presence. Because sometimes what your pain truly wants is not to be erased, but to finally be heard. That is the moment healing becomes liberation. The moment you can say to yourself, "I can feel this, I don't need to escape. I am strong enough to hold my own pain with love." That is true power. And that is how the shadow ceases to control you from the darkness and instead becomes an integrated, powerful ally by your side. Now that we've established why these difficult feelings are powerful signs of healing, let's move into the specifics. The 7 unexpected feelings that prove you're healing, even when it feels like the opposite. Are you ready? The 7 unexpected signs of healing. 1. You feel more emotional, not less. You find yourself tearing up more easily. A wave of sadness washes over you for no apparent reason. You're deeply moved by music, art, an act of kindness, or sometimes by nothing at all. This is not emotional instability. It is your emotional system thawing out. After years of being numb or suppressed, you are finally granting yourself permission to feel the full spectrum of your humanity again. According to Jung, emotions are the language of the soul. When you reconnect with your inner child, you open the floodgates of everything that was held back. You're not losing control. You are regaining your emotional fluency. You begin to question your old identity. A quiet but persistent question arises. Who am I without my role as the helper, the peacekeeper, the perfectionist, the one who never shows weakness? This internal audit can feel deeply disorienting, even frightening, because you are consciously stepping out of your persona. The persona was Jung's term for the social mask we all wear to be accepted. As you heal, that mask begins to crack, revealing the more authentic, complex self underneath. You may no longer resonate with friends, jobs, or habits that once defined you. This isn't regression, it is a spiritual rebirth. Through you feel a profound sense of fatigue. Deep healing is immense energetic work. Your nervous system is literally rewiring itself. Your mind is unlearning decades of conditioned responses. Your heart is detoxifying old grief and fear. It is completely natural to feel tired, mentally foggy, or apathetic about things that once energized you. Jung believed the psyche has its own intelligence and protects itself by slowing down when it's processing major inner shifts. So, if you feel drained, give yourself radical permission to rest. Healing does not have to be productive in the way the world defines it. It just needs to be honest. 4. You feel like you're going backwards. Old triggers suddenly have power over you again. Wounds you thought were scarred over feel fresh. You find yourself reacting in ways you thought you'd outgrown. But here is the profound truth. Healing is not a straight line, it is a spiral. Each time you revisit an old wound, you are not failing. You are meeting it from a new, deeper level of consciousness. You are not backtracking. You are excavating more of the root. As Jung stated, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. If the past is visiting you, it's because your system is finally strong enough to process and integrate a deeper layer of it. 5. You feel alone or detached from others. As you begin to heal, especially from relational or childhood wounds, your energetic frequency shifts. Inevitably, this means you may outgrow relationships that were built on trauma bonding, codependency, or a mutual silence about what was really going on. You might start craving solitude, not from a place of depression, but from a need for self-preservation and recalibration. Jung called this journey individuation, the process of becoming your true individual self, separate from the roles, patterns, and expectations projected onto you by others. This phase can feel intensely isolating, but it is also sacred. It is the necessary space of becoming. 6. You start setting boundaries and it feels awful. You finally say no to something, and a wave of guilt crashes over you. You protect your time and energy, and you're terrified of being rejected for it. You ask for space, and then immediately doubt if you deserve to. This discomfort is one of the clearest and most powerful signs that you are healing. You are actively choosing to no longer betray yourself, to keep the peace with others. Carl Jung saw self-abandonment as a primary shadow behavior. As you heal, you begin to understand that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's an act of profound self-respect. While it may feel terrifying at first, that discomfort is the friction of your growth. 7. You feel a stronger connection to your inner world. You begin to have more vivid or meaningful dreams. You start noticing synchronicities. You pay attention to subtle feelings in your body. You find yourself drawn to journaling, meditation, or simply sitting in quiet reflection. This growing connection to your inner landscape is a sign that you are healing the painful split between your conscious and unconscious mind. Jung viewed dreams and intuition as vital bridges to the deeper self. When you notice these channels becoming louder, more frequent, or more meaningful, it means your unconscious finally feels safe enough to communicate with you. That is a profound victory. All of these feelings, the sadness, the fatigue, the confusion, the loneliness, may seem like evidence of your brokenness. But they are not. They are evidence that your soul is in motion, unraveling, shedding, and releasing layers that were never truly you. You are not falling apart. You are falling into yourself. And the deeper you go, the more you reclaim the parts of you that were once lost to fear, trauma, or neglect. How to work with these feelings and complete the healing cycle. So now that you can recognize these 7 feelings as signs of deep healing, what do you do with them? What if it still hurts? What if you feel stuck, lost, or overwhelmed by the process? Carl Jung taught that the ultimate goal of healing is not to get rid of pain, but to transform our relationship with it. This is the essence of integration, the final stage of deep emotional alchemy. Here's how to move from confusion to clarity, and from fragmentation to inner wholeness. Instead of asking, how do I stop feeling this? Try asking with gentle curiosity, what is this feeling trying to show me? Don't demand that your inner child get over it. Sit with her in her pain. Witness her. Let her know she is finally safe in your presence. That is where the real healing begins, not in logic but in unconditional emotional safety. How do you do this? Through gentle inner dialogue, through rituals like writing a letter to your younger self, through simply placing a hand on your heart and breathing. Use your triggers as your guides, not your enemies. When you get triggered, it is not a sign that you've failed. It is a map, a spotlight pointing directly to something that still needs love. Jung taught that we must look at our shadows, not to judge them, but to understand and embrace them. Your reactions, your fears, your emotional intensity, they are all pointing to the same place, an unhealed wound that is finally ready to be seen. The next time something hits you hard, pause and ask, what part of me is feeling unloved or unsafe right now? That question is the doorway. And when you walk through it, you heal not just the symptom, but the root. Trust that you are not behind schedule. The healing journey can often make you feel like you're wasting time, like you should be more productive, more social, more successful. But this is sacred work, and sometimes it means pausing your outer world to repair your inner one. Jung often spoke of the inner journey as a descent into the depths, the underworld of the psyche. It can feel dark, lonely, and uncertain. But when you emerge, you return with wisdom, clarity, and a self that is unshakably real. So don't rush your process, don't compare your pace, trust your own unfolding. Sometimes healing looks like crying in your car on your lunch break. Sometimes it looks like saying no and feeling your hands shake with guilt. Sometimes it looks like sleeping for 10 hours and still waking up tired. But beneath the discomfort, beneath the confusion, beneath the emotional waves, a new version of you is being forged. A version rooted in self-trust. A version who can love others without abandoning themselves. A version who can rise, not because the pain is gone, but because they are no longer afraid of it. So take a deep breath, look in the mirror and say gently to yourself, I am so proud of how far I've come. Even if no one else can see this battle, I do. You are healing, even and especially when it doesn't feel like it.